2009 Panasonic KX-TG6434. In the overview video for the 9344, I said that I wanted to get a 641 or 740 or both handset to use on it. And I said that it was not worth it to get a 64 or 74 series model. The same Salvation Army outing where I got the replacement 5243 second handset, so a week after the 5243 was bought, and a day after the replacement CR8-3207 base plus 2 additional handsets, 1 additional charger arrived, I also got a metallic gray 641, and I was willing to take the risk since it was way cheaper than if I would have to order it. So I only paid $2 for that handset at Salvation Army compared to like $19 for it on eBay. And so, of course, I registered it to a 9344, so let's actually demonstrate by using my 641 here. So let's take the 6434 out of the equation here for a sec. So now this 641 is on the 9344, and this was my original plan. Everything works. Even the ringer ID option. So now if we go into it on this handset, you can see that the ringer ID setting did save. However, the answering system menu does not work. It links to the base, the speaker turns on, but the in-use light doesn't even turn on. The handset is linked to the base, but it does not actually go into the answering system. Nor can you change any of the answering system settings. Talking alarm does work, however. That handset was returned not because of that. I simply would have bought a metallic gray 6431 series base to put it on. The reason I returned it the next day is because of a very strange issue that I've never seen before. The LED for the backlight for the talk and speakerphone buttons was broken. I had opened up that handset to fix its button issues. That handset had major button issues too. This handset is perfect though. And apparently it was loose or something, because when I applied pressure to it, the light worked. But then I use alcohol to clean it and it breaks it more. So the alcohol is how I fix the button issues, because it removes the gunk on the button pad. But apparently it can also break button backlighting if you're not careful. I mean, it's the electricity and water don't mix thing. But I mean, in most cases, it's able to be done without that happening. So I got the 6434 to put it on. Where the differences between the 9344 and it begin the moment you plug it in. On the 9344, the lights turn on, but the base does not beep. On the 6431, the 6434, it does beep. So we're going to plug the base in here. And it beeps. If you hold down a button combination, and by the way, locator now does do the long beep as you're holding it, the beep sounds after the button combination is released. This phone was a freak show, putting aside the broken Salvation Army handset, which would have been the beginning of this set. So instead of a metallic gray one, I got this black one. I was going to get a metallic gray 6432, but that was where the freak show started. This was something that never happened before. The seller was inactive. We don't know what happened, if the seller was sick or something, or needed to take care of a family member or whatnot, or if the seller is simply away. But in either case, eBay has a away mode that they're supposed to turn on to let eBay know that they're away, so that I, the buyer, could have turned away from that 6432 when it says the seller will be away until insert date here. And so I canceled that order, and then made an offer, my first time ever doing that, to get this for a lower price. And the offer was accepted, and here we are with this black 6434. And this is what it looks like to track one of my phone packages with USPS. Arrived at post office, out for delivery, and delivered, have the location edited out for privacy reasons. And this brings us on to the series rundown. So I briefly went over the 6.4 and 7.4 series in the 9344 overview video, but that's when I was hoping that the 6.4.1 would be compatible with the 9.3 series, but it is, aside from the answering system stuff, but it also misses out on a 6.4 specific behavior. It wraps around, the wraparound tone sounds when you reach the beginning of the list. And this also goes with a color list, and it does not wrap back to the colorless initial display. So on the 9.3, if we go here, you can see it goes back to the main color list screen. But on the 6.4, it does not do that. So there was the 6.4.1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. Those are all titanium black. That is the locator base, no answering system model. Then there was the 6.4.2.1, which is basically this, but with color-matched buttons. That is titanium black, so it would have black buttons on the base instead of these silver ones, and all black buttons on the handset, no backlit keys. And an amber display backlight, no headset jack, and it does have all the same features. So I guess the only reason they called it a 6.4.21 versus 6.4.3.1 base is because of the button coloring, but they don't necessarily have to do new models for it because we now see material and color differences, the backlight layer being different. For example, this silver 97 handset is backlit white on black instead, and the black with silver accents 97 would have the black on backlit white keys. But I guess that's not how things worked back in 2009, so they had a separate base. Then there's this, the 6.4.3.1 series. 6.4.3.1, 3.2, and 3.3 come in metallic gray, suffix M, and then this, the 6.4.3.4, comes in titanium black once again, suffix T, or in my case, PK. So on the bottom here, the base is suffix T, but the set model is suffix PK. And this is a 2009 build, and this was apparently sold all the way up until 2013 when I started reading the manuals and really got into the various models. And I first read this manual in December 2012. This was one of the first manuals I read. The only reason I could think of why there's both a T and a PK suffix is that PK might have been the equivalent of SK now. So like here on the 994 SK means this is a Costco model. So maybe the 6.4.3.4 PK was sold at Costco and then the 6.4.3.4T elsewhere, maybe at Best Buy. Then there was the 6.4.4.1 series, which is this, but with a base keypad. And it's literally this, but with a base keypad on the right. So basically, widen the base, and there's the base keypad. And it is laid out exactly like this, but instead of a memo button being a circular button, it's a rectangular button next to the 3 key above the conference key. Then, the 6.4.4.1 also has a custom bundle they created called the 6.4.4.0, which is a 6.4.4.4 with one of the black 6.4.1s swapped out for a silver 6.4.1. And that is the only time where a silver 6.4.1 is included, and I believe the only time a silver 6.4.1 ever exists. Then a fifth handset, a 740, is added. Then there's the 6.4.7.1, which is the 6.4.2.1 but white and silver, and without talking caller ID, but it still is talking alerts. Then the 7431 series, which is all gloss black with gloss silver accents. And that one has the 740 handset, which I'm going to get as the second handset to this set. So that's the high-end one with the joystick navigator key. That will be my first handset to be that way. The large display, the multi-item menu, and premium click feel buttons. The only 5.85 design to be that way. And this is the only 5.85 design to do the greeting on the handset, and that is one of the reasons why the answering device menu does not work on the 9.3 series. But now let's get into this model specifically. This is basically the DECT design, but with the 5.85 sounds. So the wraparound tone now sounds on the first option instead of the go back option, as is the case on the 9344. This is the first and probably only, I think the 5.7 series is this way too, in the menu at least, where you cannot use direct commands in the answering system menu. So that means you cannot turn the answering system on and off with 8 and 0, even while playing messages, unlike the 5.7 series, where those commands do work while playing messages. I'm not sure if it links to the base of the menu on that one. That one probably just does a message playback command and then sends whatever thing you select. This handset does not work with the message play option on the when registered to the 6.4 series, but everything else works. Except maybe the phone work. We'll try that now. I haven't really thoroughly tested this handset yet. I was going to use this as the second handset in the meantime. I probably still will, because that's the only thing that doesn't work. The settings do work, but you just can't play messages from that handset. So the phone book works. And the ringer ID also works. So this does work. If we go in here, it does work, but now what does not work is the answering system menu.
No.
It says the system is busy.
No.
But it does link to the answering system for a second. If this handset does not support block about number, this handset on the 9344 wouldn't have supported that anyways. And then talking alarm works the same way.
Good morning. It's time for DECT.
The voices have some delay to them, and that's the same, and same with Spanish, more pronounced in Spanish. But the settings do work. And here's how the talking alarm works on the 641. Still lets you do the year. And you can still press 1 for tone melody, 2 for voice, and it's tone/melody, but not with a space on either side. It wouldn't have fit because this doesn't have scrolling text yet. And this is the first to say alarm tone instead of ringer tone.
Good morning.
I think I forgot to mention the 9344 video that you can actually clear remote code out. This one still does not support the turning off remote code. And then all of your settings work the same way. Except this phone introduces to the 900, 110, 160, and 80 milliseconds flash time options. And you now hear an error tone if you try to go further. So let's set this to 80 milliseconds, and now going to go on to the 931 handset. And you can see this handset is actually glitching out. You can see it's not actually saying that as a correct setting, but you can see I pressed save and it did still save. But now if we register this to the 9344, and do it on that one. We have to register the other handset back as well. And by the way, this handset says base register apostrophe in instead of base registering or base in registering. It cannot fit registering. I don't know why they didn't just switch it to base in registering. Okay, so now, of course, this is as high as this will go. Now if we do it on this handset, actually this handset knows that it can't do those other options. Unlike on the proper DECT models, where, for example, the 106 can change it on the 1032, the 1032 will just show the next available option instead of glitching out. Deregistration works the same as the 9344, where it does not link to the base until it needs to. It shows the number in brackets instead of in the actual filled-in background. And by the way, it does say regis-tration and deregis-tration, which is very weird. Then, it prompts if you want to erase it, just like proper DECT models. Now, it says deregistered. I think that's different to other models. So let's, for example, if we deregistered this 994SK handset, it just says deregistered. Modern Panasonic phones, all the proper DECT models do support, except the HD voice link to cell ones, do support place on charge registration. This handset does not. It just prompts you to press OK and does not support place on charge registration. Just like the 106 handset, you can press redial in the redial list to scroll through it, and it has wraparound tone once again. This came to me with no verified or spam indications on the car list entries. That does not mean it's not still shaken, it just means that they don't send the indication in the name. Voicemail access works the same way. Oh, actually, we want to register this to the 64 series again to see if that ridiculous call transfer behavior they say in the manual is actually how it behaves. Now let's take a look at how the phone book works. The soft keys don't disappear while it's loading, so let's look at Popcorn, for example, or Airplane ID. When you go to edit, it prompts you, it lets you select information to edit, and then press save, which is the left soft key. When you add an entry, you still enter the name first and then the number, unlike on the 2014, 13, 14 color display models where it always is the wizard. And then you can enter the number. Then it highlights set ringer ID. If you save that, it just sets it to no ringer ID. If you clear the name, it just says name, not in parentheses or brackets or anything. It does not have scrolling text. So even if I do a long name, you'll see that it does not support scrolling text, no matter how long I leave it up for. Now, I'm not sure if the 740 will, but I doubt it will. Same with the number. Instead, it shows an ellipsis at the far end, at the very right. You can sort of see that. While the base is in registration mode, the date and time are shown on the same row, so the time shifts down. But it does not have renameable handsets. Talking caller ID shows up as a regular menu, unlike on proper DECT models, where it shows up like this. The play soft key hides when voicemail access is selected, probably to prevent confusion, because if you went to voicemail access and pressed play, you might have thought it would start playback on voicemail instead of the answering system. Of course, they could have made it say VM, or at least program the play button to do the voicemail access, but instead, it disappears. But when any other option is selected, the play button is available. Curiously, this would not be the case later on proper DECT models. So the first with both answering system, voicemail access, and a play soft key in the menu would be 2011. So by the time we were 2 years past this model's release, and so maybe they just didn't think to do that. But this model was once again still sold all the way until 2013. By the way, on the 6.0 series and 3.0 series, the customer support URL says phone help, even though the manual says help. So that leads me to believe, at least back then, they did not update, well, probably back then they didn't update the customer support URL as they changed the actual URL on the documentation and boxes, but that doesn't answer the question as to what they do now. And the icons on the 6.4 are closer to the icons on 2013 and later models than they are on 2010 to 2012 models, except for the answering device icon, which is closer to the 2010 models. So let's see if that call transfer behavior is the same. So we'll transfer it to handset 2. So here we are. Now it says intercom hold, and we can do a conference call. Okay, it does in fact not transfer. What in the world? That is ridiculous. So let's do this again. We're going to transfer back to handset 1 this time. Pick this up. And whatever you do, you cannot use that handset to complete the transfer. So basically, all you can do is, well, you can also press conf and then off. But once again, it did not transfer. This is new enough to say line on hold, press talk. So this is in fact the way it is. That is ridiculous. But you can press conf and then hang up, and it transfers that way. So that's what I'd recommend users do, instead of having to tell the other end, I'm going to hang up now, please press talk to pick back up the call. But that is ridiculous, because every model prior to this worked the way you'd expect, where when you transfer a call and hang your unit up, the transfer is performed. Then again, this was not only from the transitional era, but also from the quirky era. A quirk I did not really notice until yesterday is that the 6.0 series does not show when there's a missed call. So you have to be constantly remembering when you get home, do I have a missed call? I need to check the caller list, because it won't say in the standby display. That is so weird. So the 2007 to 2009 models really were weird. They started getting better back in 2010. So for anyone who says the modern Panasonic stuff isn't really good, it's really just that they are on and off with their quality and being perfect. And that brings us on to recording a testing message into this phone. And by the way, this is my first checkout at my desk, because that's where this phone's going to go. It's going to take the place of a 9344. Let's try again. This is a test message on the Panasonic KX-TG6434 on talk and on speakerphone. This is the end of their transitional series and the final model to have 5.85 sounds. Instead of the display going blank when you hang up, it immediately says off, and that differs to any other model. As you can see here. Okay, now we should have a new voicemail. Oh, we don't have a new voicemail, apparently. Oh, there it goes. It lags, I guess. Yeah, it still lags, just like the 9.3 series. And this is also the first model, and this handset design, so the 641, 740, and 106, is the first to turn off the charge light when fully charged. I'll see exactly how this works when in the morning when this is fully charged, but it's probably going to work like the 641. Now, let's press VM. This does not have a standby soft key for it. The 5.8 designs never had that. This is a test message on the Panasonic KX-TG6434 on talk and on speakerphone. This is the end of their transitional series and the final model to have 5.85 sounds. Now let's listen to the test message on the system. Still says there's a new voicemail, apparently.
Testing message. The quick brown fox jumps over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Tech with Tyler's phone testing cold line is powered by free PBX.
It also doesn't even say transfer call when you press hold. But on this handset it does. So this handset says hold. This handset's actually saying line on hold, press talk. So I guess they all say that. Even though that's not the handset that I was using to do that. So again, we're going to put this on hold, and this does say line on hold. And it doesn't have the phone icon, it still just says in use. So this is not new enough to have a phone icon for the high-end models. But the low-end models and high-end models having different software design should not at all be compared to AT&T's DE platform low-end models to the DCX platform. That's what the high-end models are called, according to the same commenter who told me that the low-end ones are called the DE platform. Because the high-end one, so this design actually has way more features compared to what AT&T does, and AT&T actually had more platforms than Panasonic did. Generally, it's either this platform with varying tones, or this platform with varying tones once again. Speaking of which, the only 5.85 design to play the ringer when you go into the ringer settings is the 5.7 series. This model, despite having a DECT design, does not do that, as you can see. This still has the 5.85 tones. So this looks like a DECT phone. It is a DECT phone, but it sounds like a 5.8. But does not go back to standby when you save the ringer volume setting, unlike on the 9344. Clearly it does that. Now let's call this phone and leave a testing message. Long extension, because I've done all of my checkouts thus far at my other line. You may have noticed my phone display has been getting more love. Oh, this just says check and call instead of check and call, because that's what can fit. And the ringer off button is on the far right on this one. So actually, I think that's how they all were. They moved it to the left on 2010 models.
after the beep. We will return your call.
This is also not new enough to have a call screening setting, so you have to turn the volume all the way down if you want to turn that off. And then remote access works no differently. It does not let you do star pound. So the 10.6.2 is the first to do that. I'm not sure which came first, if it was the 6.4 or the 10.6.1 series. This one doesn't have the loop current disconnect working either. Really? It worked on the 9344. I don't know why my disk drive decided to wake up.
It's also not new enough to have a call screening setting, so you can turn the volume all the way down if you want to turn that off. And then remote.
So now let's look at it on the handset. There was no place off key for that.
No new messages.
This does have the scrolling when it says all message playback. Once again, you cannot use the numbers in the answering system menu. It does have a delay before record now pops up. And it shows the confirmation messages before the confirmation tone. And even if it loses the link, you can still press play and stop here.
Record greeting after the beep.
Hello, you have reached a 6434. Please leave your message after the tone. And you can't press 9 to stop recording either, but you can press off or place it on the base.
Hello, you have reached a 6434.
For the settings menu, there's no delay for that. this does not say the word rings, just like the actual 5.8 models. You're able to use the direct commands in the settings. For the Panasonic phone to not have the direct commands in the answer system menu, I would have thought that would have been the 1032 or 8231 series, because those don't have direct commands at all. But they do in the answering system menu, and this is the exact opposite. You have direct commands, and then the direct commands for each setting, but you do not in the answering system menu. And this still has the 2 minutes recording time option as well. And then you can, and that means you cannot press 8 or 0 to turn on or off the answering system. So you went for fire to play all messages, but you can't do that.
Play back.
1 or 2 are the only ones that work for the repeat and skip, but everything else does not work. And that means you cannot pause on the handset. If you press select to edit and call, it just restarts when you go back. Same with erase. But the base still lets you pause messages. But that's the case on all 5.8 models, so that's not exclusive to this model. Only proper DECT models with the message menu let you actually pause messages, like this one. But it's not just pausing, you actually get the full menu, so you can edit and call through the menu and everything. But this does say yes, no when you want to erase messages, and this still has the greeting not recorded error message.
After the beep. Your greeting was not.
And everything works the same in Spanish as well. So everything works like you'd expect, and now we can see the color list. Once again, it will not wrap it back to the total, to the main display on the 6474 series. And then you can save to the phone book. And this one, you can edit it while you're doing it, but you can't actually back out of it because of the way it works. Even with the wizard. I mean, even when you do the name, so. And when you do call block, it just saves straight away. And that works like you'd expect. It is pretty strange how this works. And this has all the direct commands like you'd expect. And this shows all the slots, even those that aren't registered. And it does show the numbers in brackets. On all other 5.8 designs, I forget if the 5.7 series is this way. I'm probably going to get that at some point. It just shows the number. So they're definitely preparing for enameable handsets, but there aren't enameable handsets yet. Until 2010 models. Display setting exists on this handset just like I showed on the 6524 handset, the 653, because if it's with a 740, it would have had the display mode option. So now, for that handset, it still has a place off key, but it's on the left. So single multi is on the right. And we'll be showing that handset once I get it. And then for the 6053 second handset, I'm going to be getting a black one. And same with the erasing as well. It shows the confirmation message for confirmation tone, although for erasing a message, it doesn't do that. So this does look quite a bit different than the 106's software. It has the space on either side of a slash, and it shows 2 or more word titles on different lines, except for voicemail, when it doesn't need to. Call block doesn't either. That's pretty strange. Oh, except Keystone Auto Talk definitely does it unnecessarily, and then everything else works the same. If you choose an invalid handset, it once again says error. Oh, I just deregistered this one. Wait, the base reboots when I deregister a handset. That's interesting. Let's do that again. This does not send a signal to handsets to deregister them. 5.85 designs only used the base deregistering handset of the van itself as a retained memory clearing method. So that's what you would do if you don't have the handset to deregister. I guess the intention was, if you wanted to deregister a handset you have, you would use that handset. And you can see this is the first base with the modern charge contact design. Although, oh no, it is the same. This is basically how, yeah, this is how it is now. And the spring in here is actually the same pitch as it is in this one too. This handset's not cooperating for some reason. Actually, we might actually see this when you deregister this handset. So let's do that. If it says error, once again, instead of invalid, unlike, oh no, on proper DECT models, it won't even show them. So if we do handset 1, it doesn't reboot the base when you deregister the handset you're using. That's strange that it does when you deregister other handsets. So that's another difference between this and proper DECT. When the base reboots, it does still beep, while on proper DECT models, it only beeps when it actually loses power. So like on this 994SK, if it loses power and comes back on, the base beeps. But if the base reboots, which we can do by doing silent only mode, so turn that on and then off. I'm opening the menu to prevent it from rebooting as we do this. And the time isn't lost either, but that holds true on any base when it reboots, any Panasonic base when it reboots, even the actual 5.8s like the 6053. So let's actually do it from this handset deregistering number 1. And the base reboots. I don't know why it does. Sometimes when I register handsets to the 6053, it causes the link to get lost. But I don't think the base actually reboots when you do that. On the 7.4, it's a gloss black base, and this bit here would actually have gloss silver. And then the answer light would be rectangular, a horizontal line, above the answer on text on this button here instead of next to it. So that's definitely a higher end look. I'm not sure if the indicator is rubber like it is here. So sometimes the indicator is rubber, sometimes it's plastic. The only way you could tell what material it is if you use your fingernail. All these indicators are rubber, it seems like. On the 9582, it appears to be plastic. Because of course that's not the actual LED, that's just the lens over it. This is also when they started to Energy Star certify 2007 and later models. So they would Energy Star certify them. You see here with the Energy Star logo. The 2008 builds, 2007 builds didn't do that. I guess tail end 2008 builds did that. I forget now if it's tail end 08 or sometime in 09. And they also switched from the PQLV 207 for the base, 209 for the charger, to PQLV 219 everywhere. It's just more energy efficient, but it's the same specifications. So even though the manual says to only use the supplied adapter, on the builds that come with the 207 or 209 that is, so like this 9344 here, you can see this 9344 says to only use it for 207. If this were an 08 or 09 build, if this were an 09 build or later 08 build, let's see, this is an 8H, so I guess it would have been later 08 or just 09, and 10 builds, 11 builds. I think this is sold all the way until 11, but not as long as this was. this was sold until at least 2013. This, I think, stopped in 11. But the newer builds would say, or PQLE219. Same with the 1032. And apparently, the 207V is physically, the barrel connector is physically different than the regular 207 used on the 1032. It also fits the adapters used on the 60 and 30 series, but you must not use them, otherwise you'd be feeding 9 volts into a 6 volt base and you could damage it. But I briefly tested and it works fine. But I'm definitely going to label these. Let's actually take a look at how I label my cords. So out comes my handy dandy label maker. So I enter the brand on one line. Okay. Oh. There we go. My then current neighbors gave me this in 2014 as a birthday present. Now we want a new line for the model number. Now I can print my label. And this is how I made my room number covering labels for hotel phones. I printed several so that I'm ready for the next few hotels. So I didn't just print one for the Westin Verasa Napa, and unfortunately I left it on the 3300 and forgot to put it on the 9600 when I was making the last part of the video. So I had to edit in a covering. Now I have to peel my label and stick it on. Which is pretty tricky to do. Now this cord has been labeled, although it needed a slight adjustment. Now a custom bundle thing that was how the 6440 was made from a 6444. There was also a 6445, by the way, but instead of calling that saying it's a 6445, they said it started life as they said it includes a 6444 plus a handset. I guess because the handset was a different model number, but they already swapped one of the 4 handsets of the 6444 with the silver one. But the set model number still says it's a 6440, and that's the same with the 9345, which is a 9344 plus one more of these handsets. Oh no, actually it's the silver, white, and silver 931 handset. And then the 9348 is a 9342 plus a 935 handset that is the water and shock resistant version of this handset. There was going to be, based on the documents for the FCC ID listing, so the FCC ID for this model is ACJ96N KX-TG6434. The manual, the early version of the manual said that there was, for the handset, said that there was going to be a 6401, which I don't have any information on that model. I believe that was just going to be what the 6411 is. But that would have not followed the model number scheme, although foreign models commonly used OX to indicate locator base no answering system. But for the 9311 series in Canada, so it was only in Canada, but not the US, it was 9311, not 9301, but that is more 5.8ified. Obviously, it's a 5.8ified design, while this is a DECT design. And then, like I mentioned in the 1062 review video, the foreign version of this, so in the UK and Middle East, it's the base design, it's the design of this, but basically with the board of a 106 in it instead. And obviously using ETSI DECT and the ETSI DECT software. Pressing off does not turn on and off the backlight, even though this is a large fold-out display. This makes the 5.5 and possibly 5.7 the only 5.8ified designs to have that, but on all proper DECTs, it does work, even on the 1032, which is a smaller display. I just encountered a weird glitch where the handset number between the brackets didn't show anything when I registered this handset. So this is what I like to call a charger-sized messaging base, but it is bigger than a true charger-sized base, like the PRS 120. And this is not natively wall-mountable. The PRS is not wall-mountable at all. None of the premium design models are. This is not natively wall-mountable. It still takes a bracket. And then the 4021 and 4031, which, as I mentioned in the 6524 video, are the same physical design, just software differences. I don't know why it didn't just use a 4031 base on the 4021 base. The 4011 is natively wall-mountable, like a charger is. So it would wall-mount like this charger here, although spaced farther apart. So those bases, so that base and chargers take a non-standard wall mounting. So you would have to have a custom wall mount, I guess, screws drilled into the wall. That's what the manual says. Whereas bases where they mount standard, like this one, that goes on a standard wall plate like I have over on the wall, where my TCM422 is wall mounted. 2013 was the last charger-sized messaging base. It was bigger than this and the 40 series. That was the 4221 series. It had a different base design and the new answering system voice, but on the base's side, those were the only changes. Then the handset had a backlight timer change, but otherwise the software is the same. 421 handset versus the 402 handset, and the gold is slightly less gold. It's more silver, but champagne gold on that, like on the 4021, is subtle to begin with. And by the way, on the 642 handset, which comes with the 6421 and 6471, the navigator key is gloss black on the 642T, but then on the S handset it is silver like on here. So that was actually a case where the materials were different, probably the first time that happened. But now we see this a lot today, as of 2017. You can't really tell a silver 641 versus a silver 642 unless you look at the model number. Unless, of course, you swap the tags from a 642 to try to deceive people, which is not legal if you're going to sell it. Or if the backlight's on. The 642 does not have key backlight once again. Even though they already figured out how to do black on white with backlight. And I mean, that's not even a hard thing to figure out. You just change what the translucent bit is. The 6434 is now in the setup, and I am going to register this second 931 in the meantime. It doesn't work all the way. The answering system doesn't work, and the set base unit menu is not present. So when the 641 is registered to a 9344, the talking caller ID setting for the base isn't available, and vice versa. So basically, talking caller ID for the base and being able to access the answering system are not cross-compatible between the 2008 and 2009 5.85 DECT series. But the settings still work because it does not have a menu that links to the base for it. So actually, on this model, the answering device menu is the only menu where it links to the base, but it also has to get the total number of messages. The speaker does turn on, but if you press talk or speakerphone, it does start a call. And then it does say in use. Let's pick up another phone and see if this has line in use indication for another phone. It does. Okay. And by the way, the light on the 6053 not indicating an external phone in use, that holds true with the in use text on the 5632 as well. But that changed with the 2008 models, so the in-use light now lights up when any other phone is in use. Although it did work properly before 2006. So as you can see here, when I pick up this 821, this 5243 says an external phone's in use. Because this isn't a dialing base and has no microphone, because there's no greeting on the base, you hear a tone, so it sounds like intercom, but it does not actually let you intercom. Whoa, that's a weird glitch, and apparently this handset is not actually receiving the page. That's weird. So if we page this, there it goes, and stop it, it doesn't, it does stop paging, and then if the battery was low, the low battery alert would go off. And by the way, this did come to me with a belt clip, so now I have one for this and the 106.